Hey there folks, my name is EmptyBerry and welcome to today's episode of Lore to Go, the series where we talk about the story behind games in 5 minutes or less. This episode will go over the history of one of the most powerful entities in the Destiny universe, Rhulk, the first disciple. As the latest raid boss, Rhulk possessed an immense amount of strength, which he wielded within his pyramid ship. Today, we will be discussing how he got so powerful, his relationship with the Hive, and why his pyramid ship was inside of Savathun's throne world. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel in order to see more videos about characters and events in the Destiny universe. With all that said, let's jump into it. Rhulk was born long ago on a faraway planet called Lubre. Lubre was a planet that had been visited by the Traveler, but it had long since left the planet behind and moved elsewhere in the galaxy. Since then, Lubre had fallen into a military dictatorship in which the regime ruled from the sole city on the planet, while others known as the Wanderers lived in the wildlands outside the city walls. Rhulk was a member of the Wanderers clan, and at a young age learned that his clan's life was difficult and dangerous, for they were often hunted and killed by members of the regime known as stalkers. Rhulk was not like the other Wanderers, possessing a bloodlust to kill and fight back against the regime. His father originally displayed similar traits, but later would soften his brutality, which confused Rhulk and made him believe his father had betrayed his people. At some point, a stalker raid would kill many of the Wanderers, and Rhulk's father would be captured in the process. As Rhulk grew, his hatred and violence grew with him, eventually leading to his exile from the Wanderers. He began to hunt stalkers with a glaive while searching for his father. He would eventually find him, but to his horror, his father had become a stalker himself. Rhulk was captured and brought to the city, going on trial for his crimes. His punishment was that he had to serve as one of the stalkers for the regime. He learned to enjoy this as it allowed him the ability to indulge in his inner violence. Eventually, his father would run away from the stalkers, and Rhulk was sent to hunt him down. He found him back amongst the rest of his clan near a deep chasm known as the Abyss. Rhulk's parents tried to convince him to rejoin them, but they quickly betrayed him in a moment of weakness, pushing him into the Abyss to die. Rhulk survived his fall, though he was badly wounded. At the bottom of the Abyss, he encountered the Witness, who healed his wounds and imbued Rhulk with the power of the darkness. The Witness encouraged him, telling him this was an opportunity and that Rhulk was to be his ruin. Rhulk, full of hatred and newfound power, climbed out of the Abyss and proceeded to hunt down and kill every member of his previous clan. He would not stop there, harnessing the power of the darkness to destroy all that had spited him. Lubre had 2 sons, and Rhulk used the darkness to destroy one of them, causing the planet itself to begin cracking apart. The entire race of Lubrians perished in the cataclysm, with Rhulk throwing himself into the Abyss afterwards, intending to end his life. The Witness saved him once again though, speaking to him of his past and showing him how his actions were justified. Through their conversation, Rhulk found himself able to let go of his past life, instead embracing the darkness and devoting himself wholly to the Witness, and gaining the title of First Disciple. Rhulk would go on to bring death and destruction to countless civilizations in the name of the Witness, commanding fleets of pyramid ships to destroy their worlds. One such race was a people known as the Ocelot, whom the Witness instructed him to bring into their service, but to do so without revealing his presence to them. Rhulk would go on to work from the shadows, influencing an entire generation of Ocelot into paranoia and violence, which closely mirrored Rhulk's philosophies. Eventually, they became a race divided, building weapons of mass destruction and inevitably wiping out all life from their world. While Rhulk failed in this task, he would later go on to subjugate another race, the Worms of Fundament. The worms were trapped within the ocean of Fundament, starving due to the Leviathan guarding them. Rhulk would dive into the depths and defeat the Leviathan in combat, ripping out one of its ribs in the process. It then found the worms and offered them safety in exchange for the mother worm, Zeta. The Witness wanted to use the worms to create an army, which we now know as the Hive, and so took Zeta captive in exchange for sparing her children. Zeta would be used to create the worm larva, which Rhulk cast back into the oceans of Fundament. One of those worms would eventually find its way to the Krill and influence them to become the Hive we know today. For billions of years, Rhulk would use Zeta to create worm larvae to grow the armies of the Hive. At some point, Rhulk was instructed to station his pyramid inside of Savathun's throne world and oversee the creation of worms for her brood. It is unclear if this was a punishment or if it was because the Witness viewed Savathun as a potential disciple, but Rhulk was displeased at the situation regardless. He brought with him the Upended, a mighty weapon capable of destroying the throne world in case Savathun stepped out of line. However, when she was reborn in the light, she was able to trap him within the pyramid and disable the Upended, effectively stranding him within her throne world. He remained there until her death, in which the spell broke. At this time though, a team of Guardians would enter the pyramid and defeat him, ending his reign of terror for the time being. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Lore to Go. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any future content. That's all for today though. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.